joining. We are waiting for José Del Rio from California Common Cause, who's going to join us today, and we're going to talk about public finance, campaign public financing, public campaign financing. What's the way that I'm supposed to say that? Campaign public financing, public campaign financing. Anyways, I'm waiting for them to join us. But tell us how you're doing. Tell me, what are you having for lunch today? And what are the ways that you are nourishing yourselves, whether that be your heart, your mind, your spirit? Looking forward to it. Tell us how your weekend was going. Did any of you all join the Black Joy Parade this weekend? Or got to check out the Afrofuturism exhibit at the Oakland Museum before it closed? Tell us how you all are doing today. Put it in the chat. Let us know. And just waiting again. We're just waiting for Jose to join us. My name is Liz. And he's texting me right now. So trying to see when he'll be joining us, but let me know if you've actually heard about democracy dollars, if you've seen or heard about it and you could put it in the chat. Let us know how you've heard about it. Oh, here he goes. Invite. Here you go. Did that work? Did it work? So Oakland Rising is not endorsing. We don't do endorsements because that's our 501c3. Joe in the chat wrote, "Who do you endorse for district attorney?" So Oakland Rising cannot do endorsements, but our sister organization, Oakland Rising Action, can. And we actually have not done our endorsement process fully yet. But we also, so you will have to check out Oakland Rising Action and see what they decide to do and what our steering committee decides to do. Hey, Jose, we did it. We connected again.
Hey, we did it. Not bad for a Monday, right?
Wait, hold on. I can't really hear you. I'm going to turn it up. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Can you just a sound check? Everybody can hear me, right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you
Perfect.
fine. Yeah. So welcome to Monday Meals. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Jose and I are working together as part of a coalition that has been working on the campaign now is called
Fair
Elections Oakland.
Fair Elections Oakland.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, which is a coalition of Oakland Rising, Bay Rising, Common Cause California, Legal Women Voters Oakland, Asian Law Caucus, the ACLU, and
don't forget MapLight.
MapLight. Thank you. Always have to remember everybody. We've been working together on something called Democracy Dollars, and we're trying to bring this to Oakland and really talk through some of the things that are, what does that mean? What are democracy dollars? What does that mean for Oakland? And all of that. And what about the campaign? But before we go there, So I think this is your first time joining Monday Meals,
It
either
is.
personally or or just like participating or joining in to listen. So Monday Meals is our IG Live event, and it's based off of the idea that actually a few years back I used to run a side hustle where I would make meals on Sunday and then I would deliver them on Monday. And so everybody who put an order in got to get their lunch, their Monday meal ready for them. And so what ended up happening actually as a result of that was that every time I dropped it off or I got to like stand there and someone came and picked up their lunch, um, I got to check in with them. So this is like my way of being able to check in with people and seeing like what kind of work and things that are happening and moving in Oakland. And we talk to different folks about all kinds of stuff. So there's two things that we do. We always ask everybody. One is, what are you having for lunch? And then two is, what are the ways that you nourish yourself, whether that be your heart, your mind, your spirit?
Absolutely. First off, I love where this originated from. I absolutely love it. I have family members who still do that, who still have the side hustle. They still run kitchens out of their garage. Don't tell anybody unless they're interested in buying something. But I love it. I love it. It's a great way to connect with people. How else can you connect with someone but over, breaking bread, over a conversation, over a
That's right.
meal? But, I love it. But it's also a time for me to showcase my cooking prowess. So
Hey,
in true Jose fashion, I cooked up something special last night. One of the pandemic skills, or one of the things I learned during the pandemic, was that I'm actually an excellent chef.
hey.
If I'm going to toot my own horn. So last night I made some breadcrumb encrusted shrimp with various seasonings and a little bit of eggplant parmesan as well, a little bit of pasta as well in there. So I'm eating leftovers, is what I'm saying.
Oh, watch out for Jose. He's gonna have his own Instagram cooking channel.
Oh yeah. We'll talk about democracy dollars. We'll talk about Oakland. We'll talk about cooking. So yeah, drop your favorite recipes in chat so I can make them. But I absolutely love it. I mean, that's one of the ways that we nourish ourselves, right? Going into your
Yeah,
second question, is how do we take care of ourselves? This is a long haul. Obviously, with everything going on in the world, and we should probably take a second, to make space just to acknowledge all the conflict going over in Ukraine as well as in other parts of the world. So, they're in our thoughts as we do this. But one of the things that we got to do here to keep our minds, our souls, our bodies healthy is to take time for us. And cooking is something I enjoy. It's not something I do all the time, but I love it. But my partner has recently turned me on to walking, just taking a neighborhood walk. Seeing the beauty that is Oakland, going up and down the hills, meeting your neighbors, just getting out there in the fresh air. I mean, we always talk about work from home, right? We're kind of stuck to a desk. So let's
yeah.
get out there. Let's get out there. Let's meet some people. Let's, enjoy the fresh air.
I love that because there's so many good trails in Oakland. There's just so
Oh,
many.
yeah.
I love how close like the parks are and just love from there's just places all over, right? There's the lake, there's the estuary, there's up in the hills, East Bay regional parks are around, so it's great. There's so many places to go around here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
gorgeous.
love that. I
It's
love that
gorgeous. So
you're
this
getting
is a
out.
reminder. Yeah, I'm trying. Trying is a better word. Trying is a better word. But hey, man, that's all you can ask. You know,
Yes.
try.
It's a practice.
But yeah. Sorry, I'm gonna take a bite. It's staring at me, so we gotta. Oh, doing better
I'm
than I
glad you're
should.
eating. That's a good thing. I'm going to grab my lunch after this. I
hmm
haven't decided what to get though. But I have been really loving these. Um, there's these dumplings over here from Tejo. It's a Vietnamese restaurant. And they have these um, rice dumplings that are really yummy. So I'm thinking about going over there and getting
You had
those.
me at dumplings. Yeah, you had
I
me at
love
dumplings. I'll see you after
dumplings.
there. I'll meet you
You
there.
can walk. You can walk there.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can walk there. It might take me a little extra time, but I'll meet you there. We'll say 110 right after this.
Yeah. Um, well, thanks for joining today. Thanks for sharing all of that. And for everybody else who's joining in the chat, go ahead and let us know what you're having for lunch. Let us know that you're eating and that you're taking care of yourself. And then what are the ways that you're nourishing yourself? Like, what's the latest book that you're reading? Or what are the ways that you are physically staying well or spiritually staying well? Um, this morning, what I've been trying to do lately is that, um, I'm recovering from a concussion, so like moving really fast is really hard, and talking, and it's like all my work is just talking and thinking, and so I've had to like really slow down. But one thing that I have been doing when I get up in the morning is I move a little slower to like actually get out of bed. So I will um, do a bunch of stretching in my bed before I actually stand up. And it's really a nice way instead of like grabbing my phone and like looking at my text or looking at my calendar, looking at emails or looking at Instagram or whatever, to actually not have to use my eyes like or like scrolling on a screen. It hurts, so I try to minimize it as much as I can.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, y'all should try that in the morning, just like
Oh
do a
yeah.
few stretches. Cat cow, that's a good one. Child's pose, all of that. um, but we're here to talk about would you say campaign public campaign finance?
I would say public financing of campaigns. No, I threw a new one. Yeah, see?
Why you threw it in
Just
the
just
mix?
threw a new one. Yeah, right.
You just
Well,
threw
no,
it
I mean
into a total different one.
any of those are fine. They all
Yeah,
mean the same thing. They all mean using the resources that we have as a local jurisdiction, as a local city, and sort of elevating regular folks to engage in our campaigns, right?
right.
And that's the core. It does. It's what we call it is what we call it, but that's really what we want to do. But yeah, I mean that's something I'm working on. Happy to talk about it in between bites.
Well, tell
Um,
us
yeah,
first, Jose. Let's talk about why we need it, right? And in Oakland, when we think about some of our current electeds in office and previous campaigns, there has been, you know, one of the things that we've been talking about Oakland Rising is where is campaign contributions coming from as we were doing the redistricting, because we knew that was
yeah,
potentially influencing who was being elected and where the electeds were catering to and candidates were catering to. And then, and that's mostly in the hills, right? It's like a large majority of those money come from the hills. It comes from outside
tech
donors.
donors.
Yeah, outside
Yeah,
PACs, right?
yeah,
Big super PACs that like corporations and all of that is just like coming in. Um,
absolutely. I think
oh,
you nailed it. I mean, hey, keep going. You're right. Oh, you're right on the money. It's perfect because I think you nailed the problem, and you nailed it on the head. Because what you have when we really focus in on Oakland, I feel like when we're talking about campaign finance as a whole,
mm-hmm,
people always think about, presidential elections. They always think about like,
right,
2020. They're always thinking about 2016, those big elections, maybe even the governor's
right,
race. And then people don't really think of campaign. I feel like campaign finance, they don't really think about it when it comes to those local elections, which is ironic, right? Because local elections are the ones that matter the most. They're the ones that influence our daily lives. They're the ones that have the most effect on us.
that's right.
Everything from infrastructure to where our kids go to school, where we went to
Yeah.
school, the amount of
And when
funding
we
we
talk about
dedicate.
infrastructure, we're talking about like your roads and
Right.
like trash pickup and public spaces that we all share, like parks and libraries.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
right,
All those things that we encounter on a daily basis, those
right,
things that we engage with, the things that make Oakland so special and such a beautiful city. I mean, we talked about it just a second ago, right? That green space, those parks that are accessible to everyone, the fact that I can go walking and just, walk down the road and enjoy my neighbors and enjoy the beautiful bay weather, right? That's all part of it. But, that originates with local campaigns, right? Because where the money goes, where we focus our attention, starts and ends with our local electeds, whether it be
Right.
city council, whether it be the board of education, whether it be the mayor's race or even the at-large city council race. And I feel like going back to that sentiment that campaign finance only applies to a national scale, right? That's not exactly true. What we're seeing is that we're seeing a huge influx of money coming from, and like you said, coming from outside of Oakland to influence our actual Oakland city council races and our school
Yep.
districts. It's really remarkable to see how much money is actually flooding into these local races. But you said it, right?
I
Where
mean,
this money comes from.
so like
Yeah,
the way that we've seen it in Oakland, like very specifically, right? For example, Gary Yee, who is now the president of the Oakland Unified School
right.
Board of Education, in 2018, his campaign took like $120,000 from, or something like that, a little over $100,000 from some of the charter industry, right? And
Yeah.
came in at the last minute and like just with that campaign alone, with just that amount of money, it's a school board race, y'all. But he also just, and so that this also then makes you go, so what does that lead to in terms of who our electeds are, right? So
Hmm.
he was really key and instrumental in voting and passing through recently a bunch of school closures, right, that are going to affect majority Black schools in Oakland. And he was also seen at one of the school sites that are being closed with a speculator, right?
Yeah.
So as we begin to think about that, like when we think about that, when you hear about where the money comes from and what they do, right? I know
Hmm.
some candidates will say, well, I don't get influenced by the money, right? And you're like, okay, well, I can't, you just took the money, so you were influenced. like, like,
Right.
you
Right.
aligned yourself with them by simply taking the money. And so then that then eventually also um, translates into policy and budgets. And Bleacher Dave put, is it true that there's a $900 contribution limit in Oakland elections? Is that an optional
Oh,
limit? No, it's a $900 limit for individuals. And there's different
yep.
levels for, C4s and PACs. And then there's also different levels when you have bigger money and contribution on different levels. And we're not only it's not only in Oakland, but it's you know as part of
Statewide and nationwide. Yeah.
statewide. Yeah. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. I think
But I
you,
also see
it,
Bleacher Dave is having leftover lasagna. Yeah, it's pasta day. Who
it
else is
is.
having
It's
pasta?
Monday. You got to load up on your carbs. You got to make sure you got enough energy for the year or for the week, excuse me. So,
Yeah,
so make sure to take your pasta. So Liz, make sure you get some carbs after this because you earned it. You deserved it. But I think that's exactly
dumplings,
right. Yeah, dumplings,
dumplings.
always the best. You can never go wrong with dumplings, especially
I'm saying.
some of the places in Oakland. But I think you're absolutely right. You were talking about the school board race, right? There was a recent data that came out not too long ago that said over $1 million in independent expenditure donations targeted the 2020 school board race here in Oakland.
Yep,
And behind that $1 million was multiple billionaires, all of them not from Oakland, all of them not from the East Bay,
that's right.
and they were flooding money into a school board election. Why? And that's part of the influence, right? Because you talked a little bit earlier about, well, if a candidate accepts money, they tend to say, well, I'm not influenced by that money. Okay, fine, fair. But Liz, let me ask you something. Have you ever asked anyone a favor? Have you ever asked anybody to drive you to the airport, babysit your
Oh yeah,
kids? Yeah, all the time, right? Borrow money
every
even.
day.
Yeah, all the
Every
time.
day I'm like, kicking it at on my bed, and then I just call for my kids and go, can you do me a favor, close my curtain?
Right, exactly. And then when
Can
they
you turn
come to
off the light?
you the next day and they're like, hey, mom, like, remember when I did that thing for you? It's time to cash in. Like, I need you to do something for
Right,
me. Maybe it's take me an ice cream or something in the case
right.
of your kids. But that feeling, you sort of, when that happens, right, you sort of feel beholden to them, right? You feel a little bit of guilt. You feel like you owe them something a little bit because they did something for you. It's natural. It comes to everybody as humans, and candidates and elected officials are human, so they feel that intuition to sort of repay that, that debt that they may have, and that's where it comes
Even
from.
if they don't do the favor, they will at least meet with them, right? They will
Absolutely.
give them the energy and time
Sure.
to listen to whatever policies and budget recommendations that they have.
Absolutely.
And, it takes a very strong person on that stands on very strong values and morals to not be swayed by those things,
Absolutely.
right? But it ties you to them regardless, right?
Yeah, you took the money. You took the
They
money.
took the
It
money.
it gets reported. That's on your record. That's that,
Yeah.
that's something that you're tied to no matter what. And I want to drill down on something you said. You said something about like, you take the money, you get a meeting with them. At the very least, they listen to you. Maybe they don't do whatever you're asking them to do or enact whatever policy you want them to enact or whatever they want you to enact. But what we see is that overwhelmingly the data supports the fact that the more you give, the more influence you have with elected officials. So when we're talking about huge numbers, $1 million, the $1 million number I threw out earlier, or even bigger than that, tens of millions of dollars flooding into Oakland races, um, you're talking about big influence. Big money equals big influence. The more money you
That's
give,
right.
the more influence you get from city council, from the board of directors, from the mayor's office, and this is true nationwide and statewide. It's a natural fact of the campaign system that the Supreme Court has given us in this country. But but there's hope. There's big hope. Yes, you see how I did that full circle. We're going
Oh,
back to
look at you. Look
we're
at you.
going
He
back to
brought
that
the word
public
hope
financing
in,
thing.
y'all.
I did. Hope, change we can believe in.
Jose brought the hope.
There is hope, but in all seriousness, there's something called public financing that we
Before
talk.
you go there, can I just
Yeah.
mention one other sort of impact that when
Oh
we
yeah.
have big money come in, right? Not only do you have candidates electeds that are beholden to their big donors,
Yeah.
but you also are squeezing out people who really have high stakes in their communities, right? And what
Wow.
happens in their communities. So when you have candidates who are like super local, they're just like, I really just love and really I'm very passionate about the school board. I really want to run for city council, but this is X amount of money that I don't have time. I know many candidates that have run, and then you hear about like how they had to take out money or they had to stop working because to run a campaign, it's like full time plus work, end up in debt, end up in
Yeah.
all kinds of situations that they could run. And so I can see why then people take, money,
Yeah.
you know, but um but then that it leaves out a lot of people who had high potential to be really effective leaders in our elected leaders. And then it also leaves out a whole bunch of people who actually don't have the money to contribute, right? They want to, and so then, the more you invest as well, if you just give $10 to someone's campaign, you're more invested in which direction this campaign goes or how that elected did, right? We think about like,
Absolutely.
I've sat in front of like many, like I've sat in front of some school board members and have said like, I regret voting for you, right? I regret
Yeah.
going out of my way to actually cheer for you because
Right.
you turned your back on us, right? And so when we think about that too, it not only like gives space for big donors and big corporations to like come into our town and make decisions and influence decisions, but it leaves out the small candidates who really want and desire good things for Oakland. And then
Right.
it also leaves out those folks, poor folks, folks who are targeted to not be participants in the electoral process, right? Who
Right.
are left out of the conversation. And so this potentially will give us that hope that we're about to get into, gives
Yeah.
us this opportunity, right?
Yeah,
to
it
do
does. I
those
mean,
things.
you said a key phrase there, left out. I would
Yeah.
add something to that phrase. I would say left out or kept out. Because what we
Mm,
see in the current campaign finance system we have is that from a candidate's perspective, you said it. It's very expensive to run. And if you don't have your own personal money to lend to your campaign, or if you don't have wealthy friends or wealthy backers, it's incredibly difficult for you to get your campaign off the ground and to run a competitive campaign, especially against an incumbent. Um,
right.
and what that usually means is that grassroots candidates, candidates who come from the community, candidates who come from the flatlands, candidates who, traditionally are Black, Indigenous, or belong to a people of color, um, are left out of the conversation because they don't run because the system isn't set up for them to run.
Right.
And that's a problem because if we don't have candidates who are reflective of our community's values, who look like us, who speak like us, who've experienced our community like we have, then what hope do we have when they get into office that they're going to be responsive to us, that they're going to actually listen to our needs, that they're actually going to listen to our wants, that they're going to understand the difficulties that we face on a daily basis?
That's
There's
right.
not much there. And what you see then is that candidates who run, often are the same candidates who run in every city. They're usually a little bit more affluent. They come from the more affluent or wider areas of Oakland. And as a result, they're going to reflect those values as well. So, you need a system that elevates communities of color, elevates the Black population, elevates the Indigenous population, elevates the Latinx, the Latino, Latine communities so that they can run campaigns, that they can be candidates that are viable and actually are successful, right?
Right. So we're about to introduce to you all what that means, right?
Yeah,
And we have a really great example in Seattle
yeah,
called Democracy Dollars. And actually, before I came to Oakland Rising, when I was doing work for Bay Rising, I learned about Democracy Dollars, and I was kind of intrigued by it,
yeah,
because what could this potentially mean? Like the potential for it is really great. And what we do now can see in Seattle is we've actually seen at least 3 election cycles, and
hmm
we've seen the benefits of this in Seattle.
yeah,
So what it is essentially every I always get this part confused, but it's everybody who is eligible to donate to a campaign in Oakland as a resident of Oakland gets a $425 vouchers that they can either give all to one candidate or split up into 4 different
yep,
candidates or however they want to use it,
yeah,
and are able to give it. And so the candidate essentially has to get their voucher, your voucher,
yep,
for you, right? Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, perfect. No, that's perfect. Let's
I'm
just
like,
throw the.
did I say that right?
No, that's perfect. I think that's absolutely perfect. You said it. So let's back up a second. So we talked about this hope, right? What can
Yeah.
we do to sort of elevate grassroots candidates? What can we do to elevate those communities that are left out and kept out of the current campaign finance system, right? The BIPOC communities, right? What can we do for them? And one example we can point to, and then hopefully Oakland will pursue this in sometime in the future, but one example we can point to is democracy dollars or democracy vouchers, as they're called in Seattle. And this is a really cool program, and you laid out the basics quite well. So I don't want to go into too much, but you said it. Every cycle, the city government would mail out 4 $25 vouchers, right? And it operates the same way a gift card would operate. If you've ever had a gift card to, I don't know, Tower Records, Starbucks, throwing it way
You
back to
said
Tower
Tower
Record. Yeah.
Records.
Oh, I'm throwing it way back. Yeah. Tower Records. Back to
Dang.
my youth. Yeah. If you've ever had a gift card for Tower Records, you've ever had Disney dollars. I think they call them Disney dollars, Disneyland, something like that. It operates the same way. So the city mails you those vouchers, $4 $25 vouchers, and you can actually take those vouchers and give them to the candidate of your choice or campaign of your choice as a donation. You can contribute them or donate them to that candidate. And as long as that candidate is participating in the program and is eligible to participate in the program, that's $25 in their pocket. And what that means is that you don't need to have that discretionary money. Something that we haven't talked about yet, but is sort of that specter in the background, is that a lot of these communities that don't contribute to campaign fine or don't contribute to campaigns, the biggest question or the biggest reason is usually they don't have that discretionary money. They're worried about paying rent. They're worried about paying, for
That's right.
healthcare. They're worried about paying for their kids. They're worried about putting food on the table. So they don't have money at the end of the month to donate to a campaign, especially if they feel like they've been left out or kept out. And Democracy Dollars wipes that away because you don't need to use any of your money. Instead, the city will issue you these vouchers, which you can then use to give to any candidate that you support. And what that means is that candidates have to actively go into communities. They have to go to barbecues. They have to go to Sunday service. They have to go
Yeah,
to those
knock
town
on
halls,
some doors.
knock on doors, get those shoes dirty, get the clipboard out and actually go and campaign to normal people, regular folks like you and I, and tell them, look, I want to represent you. This is what I stand for. Will you donate your democracy dollars to me? And what we saw, and you said it, in Seattle, they implemented the program back in 2017. So we've had 3 cycles-ish of data, and by all metrics, or any relevant metrics anyway, it's been a success. Donations have gone up, first-time donors have gone up, the diversity of donor bases. So donors are becoming more and more representative of the city of Seattle. Seattle's a very diverse city, but prior to Democracy Dollars, for the most part, the people who donated were white and affluent.
Right.
After Democracy Dollars, BIPOC communities were stepping up and donating at huge levels. And it's continued to increase. I mean, over cycle and cycle, people are getting involved. And not to mention, grassroots candidates are running competitive campaigns, and in a
Right.
lot of cases, they're winning.
Yeah. Well, there's one example in Seattle, right, where there was a homeless advocate who ran,
Yes.
and I mean, how many people go and door knock or go and canvass our unhoused population, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. There.
so that advocate didn't win the race, but was able to finance their campaign by getting vouchers from all of the unhoused folks. Not all of them, but got many of the vouchers from unhoused folks.
Yeah. That's something that's been, I think, a key part of this program. The fact that you don't need, starter funds. You don't need your own money to actually contribute. You can
Right.
rely on Democracy Dollars. You can still contribute your own money
Yeah.
within the confines of the law, but Democracy Dollars at least supplements some folks who don't have that discretionary money. And in that case that you're talking about, yeah, it was a lifelong unhoused advocate who worked with a local nonprofit. He had dedicated his life and career to elevating the voices of the unhoused population in the city of Seattle, decided he wanted to run, and committed to only accepting public financing or democracy vouchers, as they call them up there, from the unhoused population. And he ran a competitive campaign. And I don't see another program across the nation where that would actually be possible.
And it also forces, I mean, like, as you begin to like think about it, right? Like,
Absolutely.
I'm always, I'm like thinking, I'd love to just like turn shit over and just like try kind of new things. And I was talking to folks trying to, about leadership development and like a monolingual Spanish speaking candidate. Like, even if they didn't win, like, imagine what it means for the entire system to now have to think about language justice,
Absolutely.
right? And then, so like when I think about this, and when I think about democracy dollars, I think about, like, you're going to see people who are going to be going to talk to people that most politicians, most like career politicians and electeds and their, campaign consultants will tell them not to talk to. They won't go to the, the low, what we call low propensity voters, people who are registered to vote but don't actually vote or haven't voted in the last few elections, right?
Right.
That they'll tell you actually, how you win is going to the high propensity voters who are the top donors and givers in this city. But what if if we create this system, what ends up happening is that you then have to go talk to people that you wouldn't talk to before. And when you get them to actually give your voucher, it also increases their chances of and percentage of them actually going to vote. Like, so it also not only helps to bring some equity to the campaign finance part of electoral politics, but it also gives us an opportunity to think about all the constituents and all the people in your that you might be wanting to represent, and also brings them out to be more powerful, to be more involved in the electoral process. And that's so important because it's like we said earlier, your electeds are the ones who locally are passing your budget, who
Hmm.
then fund our police,
Yeah.
decide how we fund parks and recs and how we fund public works. And they also decide policies like public land for public good and whether they actually implement it, right? They are the ones who create the policy, our administration, and our mayor is in charge of implementation of those policies.
Right.
So we should know those things in order, right? Like how much of our city are we giving away to, to developers? And those correlations between those electeds who generally vote for policies in favor of corporations and developers generally got a lot of money from them.
Yeah, and that's true for a lot of industries. So right now, I mean, I think it's completely fair to say that, like I said a little earlier, big money has big influence. But in the city of Oakland, that's true to the nth degree, right? There's so many there's so many industries that are donating large sums of money to different candidates to ensure that their interests are benefited, right?
Yeah,
And the Supreme Court says that that's okay, and there's not much excuse me, there's not much that you and I can do about that without something happening at the federal level, which is not likely anytime soon. But that said, we can elevate the people that look like us, the regular folks, the Oaklanders that you see at the market, the Oaklanders you see picking up your kids or around your neighborhood or whatever, what have you. You can elevate their voices and ensure that they're participating so that candidates, like you said, are listening to them and implementing policies that benefit them. Because right now it's simply not happening like that, and it's
right.
unfortunate. And it's not something that's only in Oakland. It happens nationwide and statewide here in California and in the U.S. But democracy does. I'm telling you, folks, you want to make sure that your democracy, that your local democracy is open to everyone, is representative of everyone, is as inclusive to everyone as possible. Then democracy dollars is the way to go.
That's right. And so this leads us to our next piece, which is like what's next, what's happening now, right? And
Yeah.
so we are leading a campaign to get this on the ballot for November 2022 this year. And we're having a launch event
Yeah,
this Wednesday.
yeah, we are. So on March this Wednesday, ooh, it's coming up. So this
Yes.
Wednesday on March 2nd at noon, 12 to 1 p.m. Liz, as well as myself and a few others from our coalition, ACLU, Asian Americans Advancing Justice, Asian Law Caucus, Bay Rising, the League of Women Voters in Oakland, MapLight, all these great groups have come together to put together a panel of different public financing, champions, democracy dollars warriors, including our very own Liz. Yeah, to talk about sort of the state of public financing, or the state, excuse me, of campaign financing here in Oakland. Our partners over at MapLight are going to be dropping a pretty telling and revealing report that highlights just how much influence big money has in the city of Oakland and in Oakland's local elections. So you'll hear from them. You'll hear some information, some data on them from them. You'll hear from a current city of Seattle council member, Teresa Mosqueda, who actually ran in 2017 on public financing, committed to only accepting democracy dollars, and won.
Hey,
Yeah, there you go. Organizer
that's what
stamps
I
all the
like
way
to
around.
hear.
She won. She was not a career politician. She was a labor organizer. Came from a humble background. She's Latinx. She was an ordinary person who decided that she wanted to represent her community because she had the connections in her community. She had lived that experience. She had that sort of connection that a lot of politicians don't. And then she ran on the money from her community and won. So here we are, I think, in, what is that, 5 years later, she's this current city of Seattle council member working to better Seattle for everyone. And she'll be joining us to talk about her experience running as a candidate, what democracy vouchers or democracy dollars, interchangeable, what they have done to the city of Seattle and how they benefited the city of Seattle. And then we'll hear from our very own Liz
Hey,
talking
you'll
about
be there
Oakland.
too.
I
We'll be
will.
talking.
I will. I'm just a facilitating. I'm just I'm just the person who's just keeping everything moving and flowing. So I'll be there as well. I'll add some commentary here and there, but we'll talk about how democracy dollars could benefit the city of Oakland. We'll talk about how democracy dollars could benefit, or what sort of benefits we would see.
Yeah,
Um,
I put in the chat the Action Network link, so
Perfect.
y'all should go to that and then make sure that you're following along because we're hoping to get this on the ballot and we need your help to get there, right? We won't be doing a signature gathering campaign around it, but we will be trying to move this legislatively through City Council to get it on the November ballot. And we're really excited about it. We've just been hearing a lot of real interest and excitement about it, and we need you to join on in with that too.
Yeah, and just going back to the public education side, you can actually go to our website right now at
That's
fairelectionsoakland.org
right.
and learn so much about democracy dollars and how they benefit each city that they're introduced into. You can learn about who we are as Fair Elections Oakland. You can learn about some of the benefits and some of the details of what a democracy dollars program would look like. So everybody should go. I see that Liz pinned it, fairelectionsoakland.org. So make sure to check it out today. Yeah.
Yeah, check it out today, and then continue following Oakland Rising, and we'll be moving that through. You can go to oaklandrising.org to sign up for our e-blast and our newsletter so that you can stay abreast to all the things that Oakland Rising is working on. We'll be running a campaign. We'll be doing some canvassing and phone banking to folks in Oakland in the lead up to the June primary. So if you want to volunteer, join us, sign up so that you can and follow all of our Instagram and Facebook and Twitter so that you can find ways to plug into that. We'll be talking to voters about democracy dollars. So if you'd love to get on that and get a deeper education around it and then want to turn around and talk to folks about it, like sign up, y'all. And also if you support Oakland Rising and the work that we do, including Monday Meals, you can go to oaklandrising.org/donate and make a little contribution. And we'd love that. We'd love your support. So thank you so much, Jose. Appreciate you for coming through. And we'll be talking more about it. We'll do another Monday Meals about it, and we'll just take a deeper dive into another portion of the saga called Democracy Dollars.
I love it.
Wow, wow, wow,
It
wow.
it sounds so expansive. It's like Star Wars or something. It's a modern classic already. I love it. But yes, please do have me back on. I would love to chat more about democracy dollars. Maybe I'll turn it into a cooking show. You'll see me cooking, chopping up some onions or something in the kitchen.
And you're
And
crying.
yeah, crying because I'm crying for democracy as it's in danger. We need to ensure that we bring dem no, I'm kidding. No, but yeah,
Ah,
bring me back. I'd love to talk about democracy dollars, love to talk about food. Always happy to talk about those two things.
yeah.
So
Well, thank you so much. Thank you everybody for joining us today, and we'll see you next week. We're
perfect.
next week we're going to be talking about redistricting because we finally passed some maps, y'all. So excited about that. It was a K drama to the end. So we're ready and excited to tell you and share with you what that map means, and so join us next week.
Right.
Bye.
Bye, folks.